What could nature possibly teach a New York Times columnist about foreign affairs? Well, actually, quite a lot. I'm a huge believer in the idea that creativity comes when you have two or more different areas of expertise and you blend one with the other. You mash them together to get a third new perspective. And for me, that has very often involved blending an understanding and appreciation of the natural world with the worlds of politics, geopolitics, and economics. And what I'd like to do in this talk is share with you a few examples of what I mean, how you can actually better illuminate both the natural world and the worlds of politics, geopolitics, and economics by blending them together. Now, the place I always like to start is with the 2008 subprime crisis. I believe 2008 was our warning heart attack from both the market and Mother Nature at the same time. They both got together and told us, you cannot keep growing this way economically or environmentally. In both the market and Mother Nature, we were underpricing risk, privatizing gains, and socializing losses. In the market, we allowed people to massively underprice the risk of subprime mortgages. We allowed the people who did that to privatize their gains. And when they all blew up, we socialized the losses across the whole economy, in fact, across the whole world economy. We did and are doing the exact same thing in nature. We allow people to massively underprice the risk of carbon emissions. We allow those who do it to privatize their gains from cheap oil and coal, and we socialize the losses by spreading out all that carbon across the whole global environment to be paid for by coming generations. And in the process, we've raised our carbon content in the atmosphere to record levels. And because we were practicing the exact same accounting in the market and Mother Nature, it is no accident at all, that in 2008, Citibank, Iceland's banks, and the biggest ice bank in Antarctica all melted at the same time. And it was no accident at all, that Bear Stearns and the polar bear both faced extinction at the same time. Just as Citibankers and Icelandic bankers got to engage in wild, speculative financial practices that did not reflect the real costs and the real risks of massive defaults or losses, but this was not only a breakdown in accounting. There was underneath this a breakdown in values. The whole credit bubble was built on the twin principles of IBG and YBG. I'll be gone or you'll be gone when things go bad. But this faulty accounting, IBG and YBG way of thinking, were propelled by a still deeper value shift from sustainable values to situational values. Situational values are the Nike commercial, just do it. If situationally I can give you $1 million mortgage and all you can show me is $10,000 in income and your only ID is your Delta SkyMiles card, no problem, I just do it because situational values tell me I can. If situationally I can plow up 100 more acres of the Amazon and plant soybeans there, situationally I just do it, even though sustainable values that sustain would tell me I should be doing neither. Practicing sustainable values means that you behave in a way that literally sustains the natural world around you, sustains business relationships, sustains personal relationships, sustains your community, sustains your country, sustains the planet for generations to come. As in nature, so in markets, we need to bring sustainable values back to the center, not situational ones. So that's really the global economic crisis seen from the perspective of nature. What about something we're seeing in the paper right now? The spread of ISIS, the Islamic State. I was intrigued by this story because it highlighted to me the degree to which ISIS operates exactly like an invasive species in the world of plants and animals. The United States National Arboretum website says that, quote, invasive plants thrive where the continuity of a natural ecosystem is breached and are abundant on disturbed sites like construction areas and road cuts. In some situations, these non-native species cause serious ecological disturbances. In the worst cases, invasive plants ruthlessly choke out other plant life. This puts extreme pressure on native plants and animals, and threatened species may succumb to this pressure. Ultimately, invasive plants alter habits and reduce biodiversity, unquote. I cannot think of any better way to understand ISIS and what it is doing to Iraq. ISIS is a coalition, as I said, of foreign Sunni jihadist fighters from all these different countries, not native to the region, and they are an invasive species. They spread so far and so fast with such small numbers because the disturbed Iraqi society enabled them to forge alliances with many secular, native-born Iraqi Sunni tribesmen and former Ba'athist army officers whose grievances are less religious and entirely about how Iraq was governed. Today, ISIS is putting pressure on all of Iraq's native species with the avowed goal of reducing the diversity of Iraq's once polycultural society, a society of Sunni, Shiites, Kurds, Christians, Turkmen, and Jews, and turning it into a bleak, black, jihadist, Sunni fundamentalist monoculture. And what do we know about monocultures? They are enormously susceptible to disease. In nature, in politics, they are enormously susceptible to diseased ideas. How do you deal with an invasive species? Well, I went back to the National Arboretum website. And it said that the best way to deal with invasive species is to, quote, use systemic herbicides carefully. I guess that's President Obama's air war, while also constantly working to strengthen and, quote, preserve healthy native plant habitats. That is Obama's effort to forge a national unity government in Baghdad with Shiite Sunnis and Kurds working together. Now we get to the key point for me. It's about resilience. We spend way too much time and money on military solutions and too little time on the real issues that matter to most Arabs and the real issues that constitute a bulwark against invasive species, and that is good governance and just governance. We should be pressing the Iraqi government today, which is rich with cash, to focus on getting every Iraqi under its control, 24 hours of electricity every day, a job, better schools, more personal security, and a sense that no matter what sect they are from, the game is not rigged against them. That is how you build resilience into an Iraqi ecosystem against an invasive species. Let me conclude by saying that when I think about how to fix America today with this view I have of the environment and politics being melded together, two images come to my mind. The first is a cartoon that ran in the New Yorker in the winter of 2011. It showed an elderly man meeting with his banker. And the caption underneath the cartoon had the man saying, "I want to take out one of those mortgages on my grandchildren's future." We have literally been mortgaging our children's futures by simultaneously consuming so many natural resources faster than their replacement rate and consuming so many financial resources without replacing them at all. We need to change course quickly, which brings up the other image I have. It's the famous scene in Orson Welles' 1958 film Touch of Evil. At one point, Welles stumbles into a brothel and finds the proprietor, Marlene Dietrich, who was also a fortune teller, with cards spread out in front of her. "Read my future for me," Welles says. "You haven't got any," she replies. "Your future is all used up." Is that us? Is that our fate? Is our future all used up? It doesn't have to be. And I still don't believe it will be. But it will require us to bring sustainable values back to the center of our political and economic thinking. You see, our parents built us an incredible world of freedom. Freedom was at the center of our parents of the greatest generation. That's what they endowed us with. What freedom was for our parents' generation, sustainability and sustainable values need to be for our generation. Because, my friend Rob Watson, the founder of Green Buildings, taught me something very important a long time ago. He said, "Tom, Mother Nature, she's just chemistry, biology, and physics. That's all she is. You can't talk her up. You can't talk her down. You can't say, 'Mother Nature, we're having a bad recession. We got to admit a little more coal.' Because at the end of the day, Mother Nature, she's just going to do whatever chemistry, biology, and physics dictate. And Mother Nature, God bless her, she always bats last, and she always bats 1,000. Do not mess with Mother Nature. The market, Father Greed, he's the same deal. He's just the balance between fear and greed, fear and greed, fear and greed, fear and greed, fear and greed at any millisecond around a stock, a bond, a currency, a building, a piece of real estate. And the market will do whatever the balance between fear and greed dictate. You can't talk it up, you can't talk it down. These are two inexorable, giant forces, and the only way to manage them is to bring sustainable values to the market and Mother Nature, not situational values. Thank you very much.